What's going on, everybody? I'm Johnny Brook. Welcome back to another Crafted Workshop video, and welcome to part number 17 of the Not So Tiny House build series. So in this week's video, I want to talk about how much it's cost me to build this tiny house up to this point. I get a lot of questions about the specific costs of certain things. I've also had a lot of comments complaining about how I've gotten everything for free on this project, which really couldn't be further from the truth. So there were definitely some big surprise expenses that I encountered along the way, and hopefully by seeing what I've spent on this project, you can better estimate how much it would cost you to build something similar. So before getting started on this project, my buddy Eric Perkins from the Perkins Builder Brothers channel helped me come up with a rough estimate on the cost to build a house like this one, and while some of the specific numbers were kind of off, I still should be pretty close to our projected overall cost of $55,000 once the house is all finished. So to date, I've spent about $45,000 out of pocket. So I guess let's just start from the beginning and run through each step of the process just to give you an idea of what things will cost and where you might be able to save some money along the way. So first, when building a house like this, you'll likely need to hire an architect to help get a set of building plans drawn up, which is what you'll submit when applying for your building permit. So in my case, I worked with architect Rick Kazebee, who is a friend and a fan of the channel, and we approached this project kind of like a collaboration. So as you might know, I'm selling plans for this project, and 50% of those sales are actually going to Rick himself to help reimburse him for the time he spent on designing this house. And if you'd like to check out those plans, I'll have links to those in the video description below, as always. So the plans have really been awesome, and I feel like every little detail was thought through, especially as Rick has revised the plans after the build progressed, and I'd highly recommend them if this is going to be your first house build. Now, if I had not had an architect for a friend, it would have likely cost me anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 to have a similar set of plans drawn up, and that's why a pre-made set of plans like this can be a huge cost savings over hiring an architect to build a custom set of plans. So once I had the building plans in hand, I could start the arduous process of getting the HOA approval and then applying for a building permit. So our HOA charges a $300 review fee to review building plans, and the building permit costs $500 with an additional $50 zoning permit fee. The big unexpected fee here was from the city sewer department, who charged me a $2,836 impact fee to connect to our existing sewer line. And this didn't include any actual work, which my plumber will still have to do. This was just a fee for using the sewer. And I thought this fee was pretty crappy. Anyway, that accounted for most of the fees, and next we could move on to site prep. So I had to have about a dozen trees removed from our backyard here, which cost $2,800 plus an additional $100 to have the stumps ground down. The site also needed some basic grading, which I ended up doing myself with a rented excavator, and the excavator cost $800 for the week, plus $200 for the tax and insurance. And while I had the excavator, I also dug the trench for our water, electrical, and sewer lines, which saved me a ton of money over having my plumber and electrician dig those trenches. I also dug the footings for the house with the excavator, and the supplies to get the footings set up to have the concrete poured, which included the sonotubes, rebar, wood bracing material, and that kind of thing, were around $500. Once those were set up, I could have the concrete poured in the footings, and I needed a total of 3¼ yards of concrete, which cost $636, plus another $420 for the pump truck to pump the concrete to our backyard to the footings. With the footings poured, we could move on to framing, and with the obviously ridiculous price of lumber right now, this is where things really started to add up. So for the floor framing material, including the material for the girders, the joists, the metal hardware I needed, all the brackets, I spent $2,460. The Advantech floor sheathing, which was thankfully provided by Huber Engineered Woods, would have cost me roughly $1,600. This also doesn't include the cost of my bent tailgate, which I still haven't bothered to have fixed.
Wow! I mean, what? This truck is freaking flattened.
Let's check out Johnny's tailgate, because that was more of a load than I've ever seen on any regular truck. A little damage here. Otherwise though, it shuts, so that's good.
Anyway, after the floor was framed, we could frame the walls and the roof, and the framing lumber for those cost $3,877, including delivery this time. Once again, the Zip R wall sheathing and Zip roof sheathing were provided by Huber and would have cost roughly $2,800 and $3,300 respectively. And big thanks again to Huber, as they really came through here, and that was a massive cost savings. One thing I didn't account for here was the cost of hiring some of the guys from the Perkins crew, and that was because those were most mostly cash transactions that I honestly just didn't keep very good records of, but I'd estimate total labor costs there were less than $2,000. With that, the structure was framed, and next we got the windows and exterior doors installed. So the total cost for the 7 windows, the entry door, and the large sliding glass doors was $7,000 delivered from Pella, and they did give me a bit of a discount in exchange for kind of showing them being installed in my video. Before moving on, let's take a second to talk about the sponsor of this week's video, Warby Parker. So in case you're not familiar with them, Warby Parker is committed to providing exceptional vision care online and in stores, and they offer eyeglasses, sunglasses, eye exams, and contact lenses, so all of your vision care needs are covered. So I've been a fan of Warby Parker for years, and I love how they've streamlined the experience of getting new prescription glasses that are also affordable, starting at $95 with their home try-on program. So you can take a quick quiz on the Warby Parker website to help pick your frames, and as you can see, I'm also looking for some prescription sunglasses, which is another option you can add to your try-on kit. So if you're looking for new glasses, try Warby Parker's free home try-on program. You can order 5 pairs of glasses to try at home for free for 5 days, and there's no obligation to buy. The kit ships for free and includes a prepaid return shipping label. So try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free at warbyparker.com/craftedworkshop, or click the link in the video description below. And thanks again to Warby Parker for sponsoring this week's video and helping to support this whole series. Next up were the trades, my plumber and electrician, and these were 2 more pretty huge expenses. The plumbing and electrical rough-ins cost me $2,800 and $3,800 respectively, and I'll have more to spend once they come back to finish the electrical and plumbing work. The wall-hung toilet unit, which I purchased myself, cost $300, and the ridiculously expensive bathroom fan, which had to have a heater by code, cost $350. So one thing that came up during the plumbing rough-in inspection was the way in which this roof was framed. And the inspector mentioned that he would not pass it without an engineer's stamp of approval, so I also had to pay an unexpected $175 to have the roof engineered. Next, we moved back outside to get the exterior of the house finished, starting with the roof. And if you watch that video, you'll know that Tamco provided the shingles, and huge thanks to them for that, as the shingles would have cost me roughly $1,200 otherwise. I also had to purchase the custom drip edge material, roofing nails, and all of those dang soffit vents, and the total there was around $500.
Thank the gods, we're done with that.
After the roof was done, we got the PVC trim installed, and the trim itself cost roughly $1,500 including delivery, and the specialty Cortex screws I used were another $140. Next up on the exterior was the lap siding, which cost $1,600 delivered. Thankfully, Titebond provided the Duramaster caulk there because we went through multiple cases of caulk during this siding installation. So with that, the exterior was pretty much done except for a couple coats of paint, which I'm gonna have to have done at the same time as we paint our main house because they have to match. And we also need some gutters, which I still need to install. So next we moved back inside to get the Mr. Cool multi-zone mini split system installed. And Mr. Cool provided this system, which was awesome as the units would have cost me about $3,000 otherwise. Once the mini split units were installed, I moved back outside to start working on the deck and patio, and the composite decking for this tiny deck cost about $350 plus another $20 for that extra board I had to buy since I screwed up that first board. So the patio was obviously a pretty massive project in and of itself, and I'm kind of hesitant to even include it in the cost of the house, but I think it really was kind of a must to make this house what it is now. So first I needed to rent the excavator and skid steer, which were roughly $1,300 with a discount from Hampton Machine Rental. And then I needed those 4 dump truck loads of fill materials, which clocked in at $1,754. The retaining wall blocks were, again, thankfully provided by Cornerstone, which was a huge savings. They would have cost roughly $3,300 otherwise, so big thanks to Cornerstone there. For the patio itself, I spent roughly $1,000 on various supplies, including the paver edging, the bagged paver base, paver sand, landscape fabric, and other odds and ends. The porcelain pavers were provided by Atlas Concord, and once again, thanks to them for that, as the tiles would have cost roughly $1,900 otherwise. So all that being said, even though the materials and rentals for the patio and retaining wall would have cost in the neighborhood of like $10,000, having a patio like that professionally built would have cost probably 5 times that amount at least. Anyway, with the patio done, I could move back inside and get the house insulated. And as I mentioned in a previous video, I ended up going with closed cell spray foam on the underside of the house and the floor system, which cost $2,800. And then it was another $500 to have the rock wool insulation installed in the walls and ceiling of the house, which is kind of where we are now. And Rockwool was awesome enough to provide the material I needed, which would have cost roughly $4,000 otherwise. So again, big thanks to them for that. And that basically brings us to where we are in the build now. Obviously, we've gotten some drywall hung. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, most of the huge costs are behind me, except for the plywood for the walls, which is gonna cost about $3,500. It's gonna be about 55 sheets of 1/2-inch pre-finished birch plywood, plus then all the material for the cabinetry and furniture I'll be building throughout the house. Two big costs that are thankfully already accounted for are the appliances and the hardwood flooring, both of which obviously haven't been installed yet. So Samsung is providing the appliances, which I mentioned earlier in the series. This would have cost me roughly $4,800 otherwise, so huge thanks to them. I'm also getting a sweet under-counter ice maker for the house sent to me from Manitowoc. Thanks to them for that. Toolsforflooring.com provided the engineered hardwood I'll be using throughout the house, plus the shower pan and tile backer material for in the bathroom, which would have cost close to $4,000 otherwise, so another big thanks goes to them. And besides these items, there will obviously be other costs to get this place finished. As I said, the electrician and plumber will have to come back out to finish their work, plus I've still got light fixtures, sinks, a toilet, shower glass, and those kind of things to figure out. But all that being said, I think most of the major expenses are behind me, thankfully, and I think that $55,000 original estimate should be at least fairly close. Now obviously this budget wouldn't have been close to possible without all the amazing companies who have supported this project along the way. Otherwise, my total out-of-pocket cost would have been probably more like $85,000. So if you want to support me and my channel and enjoy watching these free videos, please consider supporting these companies if you're taking on a project like this. All that being said, even if you don't make YouTube videos for a living and don't have materials provided, I still think $85,000 is very reasonable for a house this nice. Plus, there were certainly areas where costs could have been cut down along the way. And I hope you guys are as excited as I am to start getting the inside of the house finished out, which also means getting back to woodworking finally as I build out all of the cabinetry and furniture for the house. So big thanks again to all of you for following along with this series, as otherwise none of this would have been possible in the first place. I am incredibly thankful to get to do this for a living, and I really don't say it enough, so thank you all for your support. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching this whole process, and I know I've personally loved learning so many new things during this project. So stay tuned for next week's video where I'll talk about the process of prepping for insulation, getting the insulation installed, and installing all of the drywall throughout the house. Also, if it's your first time here, why not go ahead and get subscribed and ring that notification bell so you don't miss my future videos. And I'll also have links to all of the products I talked about throughout this video in the video description below. All right, thanks again for watching, y'all, and until next time, happy building.